My name is Satya Tamanor, product management here at VeloCloud VMware. I know we had another speaker, Mike Frayne, who's a partner from Nitel. He had an emergency, so he had to leave. So he had a medical emergency that he had to quickly rush to. So I'm all by myself, so you can definitely ask me any questions about Nitel. Anyway, a quick show of hands. How many software-defined edge sessions have you all attended so far? Like the software-defined edge sessions, like, have you attended other sessions? A few? Okay. Okay, there's a reason why I asked that. Mainly because we wanted to see if you have all seen this slide around what we call as Edge AI. So again, a quick recap, and there is relevance to the session in terms of what this brings into and what we will dive into. So first of all, just as a quick recap, right? Edge AI, it refers to all these intelligent workloads right now that's happening in the edge computing world, where it's more AI-based workloads, small models running on the edges in terms of the computing, and it's able to administer itself. What we're learning here is that it is very much important to have AI built into the infrastructure that supports that edge applications. And that is the main focus, especially when you look at the business unit from VeloCloud and VMware here, which is the software-defined edge. We focus in 3 layers when it comes to the infrastructure. So in the bottommost layer, when you look at the bottommost layer, it's the network aspect of it. Network connectivity is changing constantly, right? Whether it be 5G or like fixed wireless access or any kind of satellite connectivity is constantly changing. So how do you bring in programmability at this layer in such a way that your applications can continue to get that same performance and the same efficiencies, without too much of derailment, and how does AI play in this, right? So this programmability of the network, which the second layer I'm going to be touching upon is going to be using. So there's an API-driven methodology that has been used in the network layer, which allows the layers above it to kind of abstract away any kind of uncertainties on the network side of it. So intelligent overlay brings us to the intelligent overlay. This is where your SD-WAN and the security of that SD-WAN traffic comes into picture, where you're talking about how can I abstract away the link uncertainties and provide a reliable set of optimized performance for my applications, and being able to do that in a cost-effective manner. Bring in the security angle, bring in the aspect of how you can have connectivity come in either behind the branch or from remote, so that all this falls under this layer of intelligent overlay. Now, the intelligent overlay, because it has to bring in the AI built into it. One example is, think of it as like now the application recognition engine that runs on this layer needs to support all of these new AI-based workloads and how it lends itself on that aspect of it. And then on top of it is where what we call as the edge compute stack. So this is the place where all of these workloads are running. And here, this is more about how can we efficiently have a pull-based mechanism that supports this edge-based applications that's running on that. And that brings us to this, what we call as a cookie-based solution that we have. Exactly, the REO1 that you see there. And the good thing is today we will be focusing more on that sweet spot right in the middle, right? Not on the top or the bottom. It's the sweet spot that we're going to be focusing on today, which is the intelligent overlay. So a lot of this relates back into the edges because it's all about edge compute, and edge compute, as you know, goes into these distributed enterprises where branches have edges in them and they have connectivity and security challenges. So there's the path of the session is going to be, we'll talk about some of the challenges that has existed and what are some of the new forthcoming challenges that these distributed enterprise face, especially when setting up these edges. We'll talk about the compliance aspect of it, the security aspect of it that is needed to do this. There is an evolution of a paradigm called SASE that is happening in the world, which again, it's been ongoing for a while, but right now it is also kind of pivoting itself as it's discovering the new AI-based workloads and a newer set of applications coming into picture. So how does this paradigm really lends itself and helps in the evolution of your branches and solving these challenges? And then we'll look at some of the case studies as well. So this is where Nitel, one of our partner, was going to share some of their case studies. I will run through them as well, just to highlight some of the challenges that these real challenges and real customer design wins that's happened, and how the VeloCloud solution was able to address some of these challenges. And then we'll finally wrap it up with a readiness of what does it mean to be SASE ready, right? What does it really mean, especially for these edges, and what should you be looking for, especially as a customer or as a partner? How do you ensure that your customers are future ready with the evolution of these edges? So the first thing on the challenges itself, first thing is network challenges. So traditional setups, again, although we keep looking at the evolution of edge and edge compute, quite a few edge-based deployments are still using legacy networks, legacy or traditional WAN setups, where you have expensive links, direct links, and they still have to be addressed for efficiencies and bandwidth limitations, because the new applications that you see, let's say for example AI applications, you will see that the traffic is going to be a lot more higher. For example, you have video surveillance, let's say, so an edge which is actually supporting video surveillance, you'll see that suddenly your traffic is increasing many folds now. It actually puts in more pressure on the network. There's going to be bandwidth limitations with those existing network. How can you get more out of it? How can you build in a cost-effective solution? So that's always on the mind from a network standpoint. And then when you think about the security aspect of it now, a lot of the traditional setups still backhaul their traffic from their branches back to a huge security stack that's running on the data center. So now you got to think about, how do I ensure that I'm still cost effective in terms of the security, and how it is able to handle the sensitive data that gets displaced. You can also think about the fact that a lot of the applications, what used to be more siloed and residing in the data center, now it's all over the cloud. There's the hybrid cloud approach that everybody is taking, just from the angle of number of SaaS applications that's out there. And then the third piece of it is the compliance. So you still need to be compliant. You need to ensure that there is consistency across all of these branches and edges. How do you enforce compliance to your company policies? That needs to be there. And doing all of this under a single pane of glass management, like managing this thousands of sites and bringing them up and running, how are you able to address that? So these are still relevant challenges when you think about the distributed enterprises. And this is where Gartner coined this term called SASE. And all they're trying to bring together here is that SASE just defines an integrated approach to network and security, rather than have the network and security be individual solutions by themselves and managing them individually by themselves. SASE is more of a consolidation of an integrated framework where you bring in the networking and the security piece together under a single umbrella. At a high level. That is the definition of SASE here. Now, what it means is it keeps evolving. While the paradigm has already been established, it keeps evolving in the individual landscape of the definition itself. For example, on the security side, what used to be just a next generation firewall, now it's evolving to like adding additional capabilities such as secure web gateway. Not sure if you have attended some of the semantic sessions that we had from the SSE sessions. That is one of the angle where SSEs are evolving to add in more and more capabilities like remote browser isolations or advanced CASB or DLP. So these are more solutions that are catering to the evolution of the traffic, because a lot of the internet traffic is going to the SaaS applications and to different types of clouds for storage. So you need to be able to evolve that security pattern to follow that data and to follow the traffic accordingly. So that continues to happen with the SASE definition. And what is Velo, or what Velo really does in a nutshell, is that we do an architecture that allows you to bring the SASE framework under a single umbrella. And this is all orchestrated on the cloud. So at a high level, when you think about the pieces of the SASE here, is the traditional edges, which has the SD-WAN solution built into it and the security built into it to support the network and security aspect of it. There is the remote access solution, which we call as the SD access client, because traffic, again, users are everywhere, devices are everywhere, they connect from anywhere. You find a Wi-Fi network from here, you're connecting to your work, and you're starting to work. So you need to ensure that policies are set accordingly, right, in terms of your access from let's say, from this place to your network will be a lot more stricter than what you would do if you were in your office or in your home office from behind a very safe network. So the zero trust policies come into picture with that, the SD access client. And again, solidifying the security on the cloud via Symantec, it just adds more and more layers of security and defense in depth approach that we would be taking with this. So this is all about how do you take the users' applications to the data and users' applications closer, taking security closer to that and in a more efficient manner from a network perspective. And there are few things that we do. So just as a quick recap on what we talked about on traditional WAN versus SD-WAN as a technology itself. So traditional WAN, it's usually expensive, direct, dedicated links that you would be using from a WAN perspective. Programming of it is usually a manual CLI-based programming, and it is dispersed through few data centers, right? It's not like everywhere. So you always have to go the long route of getting to the data through these data centers. Versus an SD-WAN, on the contrary, is all about presence everywhere, bringing data and users to the data and applications closer together. It's completely cloud orchestrated, which means your management is a lot more easier. It's a more, there is a programmatic way of how you would program and get your edges up and running. And it can support any type of links. So there's, you can get the same level of performance and, application performance with even less expensive links such as broadband versus, you don't need to have those dedicated links. That's the main core value proposition when you think about what SD-WAN does. And what Velo does is, in terms of how we address this solution, three main pillars. One is it's about how easy we can actually deploy, how easy we can operate, and how can we simplify the security. So what do we mean by that, right? So the deployment is going to be very critical, especially when you think about these distributed enterprises with thousands of sites. So your day zero and day one becomes very, very important. How do I get up and running on an edge and a site with minimal intervention from IT and thereby reducing the cost? And so that's all about the deployment. And this is where your zero-touch provisioning, where you don't need to really touch the device. The device has a pull mechanism, wherein as soon as it's powered in, it'll pull the necessary configurations and it'll come to a working state on its own. So there's very minimal intervention on that. When it comes down to operation, which is beyond day zero and day one, which is the day two, this is where your link conditions could change. Every branch, though you may have the same set of policies, things will be different. So this is where we have a patented technology called dynamic multipath optimization, which is the core to the secure SD-WAN solution that helps us get that SLA and the application performance. And so this ensures that you're continuing to operate no matter what your network conditions are. So your policies can be configured in such a way that you're continuing to offer the performance accordingly. And then the third pillar is on the security part. So security, again, an integrated approach is needed. And then you need to also have more of a flexible approach on security, because applications could be on-prem, could be on the cloud. It cannot be a one-size-fits-all. So there needs to be flexibility on that. And how we do it and how we simplify it is going to be the third pillar that we talk about. The deployment aspect of it is, like I said, it is all cloud hosted. It is orchestrated completely from the cloud, which means you have an easy way of getting your sites up and running. And this is where what we do call as zero touch provisioning. Like I said, You just need to put the edge, and there is an activation code. You plug that. Automatically, the edge knows that it is configured for a certain enterprise or a tenant. It pulls in the configuration that it needs to do. In fact, there are policies that are built into the edge, into the software, which is what we call as a quick start profile, where most of the times for typical branch setup, that is good enough, and those have their standard policies, for example, for, let's say, for Office 365, for Zoom. So the usual known applications are already built in, policies are built in for how the bandwidth needs to be allocated. And then as part as we talked about, right, in terms of the circuits itself, it can actually do monitoring of those links, load balancing across those links, and being able to fix any issues as they come up in terms of how to ensure the application performance. And I'm going to share a couple of examples as well in terms of how we did this. And in terms of policies, we do have more than 4,000 plus applications that we are able to recognize. It's very important and core to the solution, because that's how you're able to guarantee the performance across the solution. And touching a little bit on the application itself. So one example I want to highlight here. So why would our apps work better? Again, as I said, we use this dynamic multipath optimization, which allows us to get the performance, especially that the app demands. And again, if you go back to the example of if I have multiple branches, you may have multiple locations. You will have the same set of policies deployed across all the edges. They may have the same set of links, but network connectivity at every branch will be different. There will be cases where you're going to have certain network being down, or they have more jitter. There's going to be a packet loss might be happening in certain links in a certain branch. But consistently being able to generate the correct application performance is where the DMPO technology comes in, where we use things like forward error correction and link steering techniques to ensure that application performance are built. So one example real case example is where we had a brownout condition on a Office 365 application, one of the link. We were able to do a 10x performance improvement. So we were able to measure with and without this DMPO technology, what would it look like for that particular application. And so that's what the value of the performance, and that's the core of this patented technology called DMPO. So in terms of operation, again, it's critical to have this single pane of glass orchestration, because you have to have the policies being consistent. This is how you can ensure you can show the compliance, right? If you want to run audits, you have ability from a monitoring perspective to have scheduled reports that you can run. There are dashboards available which actually tells you real-time traffic, what is happening on each branch. So you have the ability to view it at an enterprise level or as an individual branch level. So there is more visibility into what is happening in the network and how quickly do you want to kind of remediate it and have additional policies generated. There are remote diagnostics and troubleshooting aspects built into it. So given that it's all done through the cloud, which means you don't necessarily have to be in different places. So it just simplifies the whole maintenance process here because of the single pane of glass setup that we have in terms of how we operate for beyond the day one, zero day one time frame. When we talk about security, built simplified security, we're talking about different layers of security here, okay? So the first layer, when you think about it, is the actual branch user traffic and the network traffic that goes through the edge. So this is your user traffic, your regular user data and traffic that goes through it. And the security that we have, which is called as the perimeter security, there is built-in firewalling capability, advanced threat protection capability that is built into the edges that works in tandem with your SD-WAN traffic and thus limiting your attack surface. So recently we've launched a service called Enhanced Firewall Services that are running on these VeloCloud SD-WAN edges to provide the secure SD-WAN solution. So there's IDS, IPS, URL filtering, malicious IP filtering, and all these advanced threat capabilities are already built into the solution to offer the perimeter security. Then comes the next layer of security where you are looking at the hardware itself. Is the hardware built with a security mindset? And in case of the edges here that we are talking about, they have what's called as a trusted boot solution support built into the hardware itself. So there is a boot sequence that needs to happen, which has to be very secure before the software actually gets loaded. So there is a security mindset built into the hardware as well. And from a software perspective, we use the high level of encryptions and ciphers that are needed for data traffics that get sent out on the overlay. And then the third angle to security, when you think about, is the orchestration. We talked about orchestration, which means the data privacy and the data security of the orchestrator itself is another big piece of the puzzle where we invest a lot in ensuring that our infrastructure is secure. And because it's completely managed by VMware, it eliminates any kind of maintenance that you may have to look at it. So we do run periodic reports audits. So we have SOC 2 reports. We do ISO 27001 reports that are run to ensure that we stay consistently compliant as defined by these standards. So security means 3 layers of security that we're talking about. It starts from the user traffic layer, building into the software layer, and then goes all the way to the cloud infrastructure layer. So security built in that. And that's what, when we talked about simplified security, that's what we're talking about. Feel free to stop me if you have any questions so far. So this just gives you what is happening in that intelligent overlay and what is called as the secure SD-WAN piece that you saw in the first few slides. Now, there have been a couple of case studies that we wanted to highlight here in the session from Nitel. So Nitel as a company, as a quick background, is a partner, one of Velo's close partner, been in the business for about 20 years. They provide network as a service. They provide added value of not just installation, but they also look for how to support their customers to be future ready for technology. So that's the focus here. And in addition to being able to, providing the 24/7 support and being able to support their customers. So we will be focusing on the manufacturing as a vertical. Again, manufacturing as a vertical is also seeing a lot of adoption and more interest in the AI from an edge AI standpoint in terms of processes, how to optimize it, being able to use it. So there is a trend that is going on in the manufacturing industry, which is called the Industrial 4.0 or the Fourth Industrial Revolution, 4IR, that's as it's called. And it is all about taking those manual manufacturing process and converting it into like a smart device-enabled, processes that are going to be built into this infrastructure, whether it be consuming more of digital data, IoT devices being used, being able to send them to the cloud, or the robots which are used to build in the manufacturing floor to do certain activities. How can it be enabled to make use of the AI, revolution here? And so that's a lot of that focus that you see are the ongoing trends that's happening in the manufacturing industry. And some of these are more relevant as we speak of some of the case studies. So the challenges typically that is faced in the manufacturing is mainly focused, when we look at it from a networking perspective, it's always about the reliability and the uptime. It is the most important, critical, number one factor. Security, of course, because you have all of these devices working in the plant and they're constantly being monitored either through the video surveillance and being able to ensure security so that there is no hacks coming into these floors and taking over is going to be important. And a lot of this is still legacy infrastructure. All said and done, there is a lot of legacy infrastructure and processes that still happen, whether it is an whether it's an automobile floor or a manufacturing floor. So those challenges continue to exist. And how what we've seen in terms of what the SD-WAN, secure SD-WAN can do here, it is actually slowly transitioning into that 4.0 technology. So SD-WAN as a solution helps with the reliability. We saw how it can actually help kind of neutralize the link-related issues or the network issues and increase the optimization. It can help with costs by going and using the DIA type of setups in terms of the links. You don't need those expensive dedicated MPLS lines. Rather, you could still get that same performance and network bandwidth with much more cheaper lines such as broadband lines, and thus improving the cost. And it lends itself in terms of the security. As the security is built into the edge with the SD-WAN, there is advanced capabilities that can be built into it. And so SD-WAN as a technology has a strong relevance when you think about the manufacturing industry as such. And the first case study that this is again one of the customer win from Nitel. It relates to a manufacturer of specialty chemicals, and it's about a $6.5 billion revenue company. It's distributed in about 87 locations, and they had like 2 to 3 circuits in each of these locations. The main challenge, at least for this one, is though it's a legacy process, they were having challenges with the processes, with the network setup mainly, and they wanted to figure out a way, and they went to Nitel for a more optimized solution. And the requirements were more about the bandwidth needs. Again, no surprises there. They want to ensure that they can do away with those expensive links, cut the cost down, and increase the productivity. There was a lot more focus on the networking side. From a dynamic routing perspective, the routing was a lot more complex given how traffic flows between these various plants. And they had this other requirement that they were using another security vendor. So it's a popular security vendor, SASE solution vendor, and they were still using that for security from an access standpoint. So how do you have a solution that can work with these different requirements, right? And so Nitel, proposed this VeloCloud-based co-managed solution. So first thing is the SD-WAN. SD-WAN comes into picture, provides you the network bandwidth, and takes away that aspect of performance and routing. The built-in security added security for the solution. Cost is again managed through your DIA because of the DMPO technology and the solution. You're able to provide the application performance and thus bring the cost. So it helps with this transition from this MPLS type of expensive networks to a more of a less expensive one such as broadband. And all, this was a positive experience because it was supposed to be a 1-year project, which ended up getting done in 8 months from Nitel perspective. And they are constantly in the process of looking at the networks as well as in the knowledge transfer as well. So they are also constantly looking at, like, if you look at what it relates to from an industry perspective, they're looking at the trends for the manufacturing for this customer, what is going to be more relevant, trying to add that extra step of being more future ready through the solution. So that's the first case study that they saw. And then the second one, as it relates to, is a more of a lawn and garden and pet supply manufacturer. Again, it's about a 3.5 billion in revenue, about 150 locations. So when we look at what they were trying to do here, the complexity, aside from the network complexity, it was also about too many vendors because they had different vendors to manage the security and the networks and the various infrastructure networks. And from a requirement perspective, they were looking at networks. They were trying to consolidate into a single vendor solution. Again, cost seems to be the common theme across the board, and they wanted more dedicated support on this one. So from a solution standpoint, again, you can go back and say that it's kind of a reiterating theme where DMPO as a technology can help with the performance from a network perspective and with a cost perspective as well. And so it was a positive experience, and because it's all completely orchestrator, cloud orchestrator based solution, right? It goes on our VeloCloud orchestrator. They now have consolidated management as well, and the entire infrastructure is coming under this single pane of glass management, and that's ready for scale as well, because now with zero touch provisioning they can bring up more devices and more locations as they come up. So that kind of are some of the case studies. So I'm sure Mike would have shared a lot more specific insights in terms of additional challenges that may have faced. But the essence of it is that, yes, there is a constant need for these manufacturing verticals to move into this more network optimized land of secure SD-WAN. That is a land of opportunities from a partner perspective. It's a huge opportunity because there's a lot more that can be done in here. But along with this transition, what does it mean to be SASE ready, right? What beyond this transition? Yes, this is something that you should be doing today, but beyond this, what else should we be thinking about from a SASE readiness standpoint? So I want to kind of touch upon a few workflows here in terms of traffic patterns. What does it really mean? When you think about any kind of branches, usually there are two types of traffic patterns or three types of traffic flows. One is I'm going to go access my own, enterprise specific application, whether it be these robots, sending in data into their servers to store the data of how many, work they've done, or whether any kind of these individual, devices doing that. Which is called as the internal access or more of enterprise traffic. And then there's the second type of traffic, which is more of an internet traffic. So this is where we talked about how whether you're going to internet for any type of access or to store data or to do SaaS application access, like it could be access to your Office 365 or Zoom, or it could be any of those applications that can come into picture when it's a more of SaaS application. So the idea here is that the solution itself needs to be flexible enough to be able to support these traffic flows. So this is where, when we talk about the SD-WAN, secure SD-WAN solution, we have added security in addition to the SD-WAN, which is your IDS, IPS, and URL filtering and malicious IP filtering capabilities. So with the first pillar that you see, enterprise traffic, the majority of the protection can be handled through your IDS, IPS capabilities. And so this is built into the SD-WAN traffic itself. When it comes to internet traffic, there are a couple of options and flexibility that can be looked at. One is where if your site itself has a lower set of, like say, traffic, and then you need just a good internet traffic protection, then you want to go look at the integrated box, which can do both of this. And this is where the URL filtering and the malicious IP filtering comes into picture. But then if your access pattern from a particular, because branches can be of different sizes, so then at which point you want to think about an SSE solution, which is more of a secure web gateway like Symantec, where can the SD-WAN SASE work in tandem with this Symantec SSE or any other vendor? And that's where you have the flexibility of doing all of this, but then all of this needs to be done under a single pane of glass management. So therefore, you don't add more complexity just because you're adding more vendors to the solution. So First thing is, like I said, the first box, which in the first two boxes were perimeter security, which is more what we call as branch in a box. So here you're looking at an integrated solution, definitely cost effective because you bring in both network and security in a same under the same umbrella. You have the same orchestrator. You can create policies from that same orchestrator, and your lifecycle management is very simple because it's delivered as part of the same software. So there's no additional complexity or burden from an IT standpoint. And in terms of how what the solution itself is, especially on the Velo side, it is using a VMware security solution for all of these advanced capabilities we talked about. And it is something that has been certified. So it has ICSA and FIPS2 certification already. So ICSA is again a well-known, reputed, most of the security vendors use that. So we have a corporate firewall certification on that. So this kind of addresses the first two workflows or the branches that we talked about. The second flexibility that you want to think about is on how you can have the SD-WAN work in tandem with a SSE vendor like Symantec. So this is where, the Symantec SSE, it's kind of a zero-touch provisioning of the branch through the Velo, because we have optimized for the deployment process from a Symantec standpoint. And also there is optimizations done between our POP to POP. So there's the data traffic that goes from the Velo POP into the Symantec POP has a much more optimized path rather than going through a standard, IPsec tunnel that we would expect the traffic to flow through. Symantec again has been in the business for multiple years now. So the security is proven and it is a much more robust solution. Jointly we have about 60,000 plus customers and about 600,000 plus, deployments from a site standpoint. So this would kind of relate back to the second piece that we talked about, or the third piece that we talked about. And then a piece in the part where you have other third-party SSE integration as well. So we not only do Symantec, can also work with other leading vendors such as Zscaler and Prisma and the likes of other SSE vendors as well. So it's important to not lock down, especially when we think about transition. In fact, the first manufacturing case study that we saw, the security vendor that they were using was Prisma. And so because Velo was able to have that automated integration with Prisma in terms of the tunnel setup, in terms of the management and reducing the cost, it was much more easier for the transition to happen. So it really relates to the openness or the open architecture, the flexible solution that we promote with our SASE. And again, there is beyond the SASE itself or the SSE itself is the SIEM integration. So this is more about like how do I actually get the logging aspect of all the branches into a SIEM framework. So we have native integrations done with the leading vendors such as Microsoft Sentinel and IBM QRadar. So thinking about this is going to be important, where you're constantly evolving and having to not lock a particular solution into a single vendor. So this ability to be flexible across the choices presented to the customers in terms of the branch setup is important in terms of readiness. So whenever you think about readiness, you want to think about, do I have the ability to provide a single vendor solution with a single box solution? Can it go to another cloud security solution such as Symantec, which has more optimal connectivity? Can it expand to, like, maybe customers have existing infrastructure, they may not be in a position to move right away. That should not be a hindrance in terms of moving into the solution. So that's the third party openness where we have, it's about how you can actually evolve this deployment. So my last slide in terms of this presentation, again, what does it really mean to be SASE ready? Again, when we started off, we talked about how the intelligent overlay in the larger edge AI picture needs to play a strong role. It has an important role to play when it comes to supporting these changing networks and being able to incorporate AI along the way in that layer. And being SASE ready is also about making sure that it continues to evolve with the AI trend as well, and building the infrastructure to support that. Being able to have, go along with the digital transformation, having that flexible solution that, even for a single customer, you may choose to install different paths or different types of solutions that we talked about from a workflow standpoint. And having a partner that can provide the trusted, installation, the support, and the, being able to look for future readiness is going to be key. And so these are some of the key things that we want to be looking out for when we think about SASE readiness. And that said, happy to take any questions, comments that you may have on the session.
A big part of security is segmentation.
Yeah.
Most, I would say, firewall vendors address that with zone-based security.
Yeah.
Has there been any thought on expanding either the edge or the SASE platform to be zone-based?
Yeah, so specific to that, so first thing is that what we do on the firewall side in terms of segmentation is like we actually rely on the VRF, which is more of the segmentation that we do on the Velo side. So each segment, there is no traffic leaking between the segment. We are looking to evolve that to make it more of a zone-based firewall, where within a segment you have the concept of zones where you can set policies to be more in line with what security vendors call the zone-based firewall. So we are looking at that from a Velo standpoint, more from a secure SD-WAN solution standpoint. It's in the roadmap currently.
Not from a SASE standpoint?
From a SASE standpoint, it would be something that we have to really look at it from a zero trust in more than a zone-based. So it kind of maps into more of your zero trust framework, where it comes down to how do I map the access of the users and devices coming in from different places to be able to isolate them and have the security stack applied to them. So this is where we're actually working on the SD access client integration with the Symantec SSE. That is where you would be able to actually do that. So you do have the ability to do that through the zero trust access policies that you're looking for from a solution standpoint. You?
Can you talk a little bit about the AI? Where exactly
Okay.
AI is going to come into play? Which level, which layer? We're going to set established style, what exactly, how?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So there are definitely AI. When we talked about AI in the infrastructure, again, we are going from the angle of AI as applications are more AI driven. Like for example, there is, let's say on the edge, you're learning a small model. So a small model that an application is using, it is making decisions, it's making huge number of data, right? And one more example could be like, I have this manufacturing plant, I have a lot of video cameras in there. I have to make sure that I'm actually using the video data and I'm making robotic actions that are based on that. So I will bring in the models to support that. So that is an AI application, and that is what is running on the top.
But AI model runs it, what's the performance impact?
So this is like, again, when we talk about edge, we are not talking just about the SD-WAN appliance edge here. Edge as an edge platform, we are anything and everything that is as a software-defined edge. It can be any open edge platforms where you are running these stacks, and then you can run, these becomes those individual applications within that. Specific to SD-WAN platform in terms of what it means to be more AI in there are few of the things. So one we are looking to do is how do we actually take a lot of the data that we have today. For example, the trends that we may be seeing from a business policy standpoint. Okay, let's take a retailer, for example. A retailer as an example, they have multiple sites. They have business policies set across these branches. Now, you know that there is data that we've collected on that particular enterprise. What we could do is that based on the seasonality, we could have recommendations provided to the vendor to say, hey, here's your seasonality that is happening. Here are the business. Here's how you performed last time for this specific applications. Your policies are not set accordingly now that the season is coming. Would you like to change your policies, or would you like to use a different profile? So these are some of the insights which are AI driven that we'll be doing. Another example would be like our app recognition engine itself needs to be a lot more relevant in terms of what type of traffic workloads do these small model applications are running. Let's say there is an edge there, and then we have an SD-WAN overlay that is actually inspecting this AI traffic. Now you need to start understanding what is this traffic. Is this traffic an AI application? Do I need to do additional optimizations for this? What kind of optimization should I be doing for that? So supporting that AI application is another angle to it in terms of how we build AI into the infrastructure. So those are some of the examples that we are looking at it from a cookie standpoint. Every layer has its own AI capability that it needs to build, and it all ties down back to what type of workloads that the stack is running. And that's why I said, like, individually speaking, you have AI specifically that is there that you can do. And at an overall architecture standpoint also, it needs to be relevant to the type of use cases we're looking to see. Because we may not be running, your edge may not be running an LLM, it might be running an SLM. So we'll have to look at it from that traffic standpoint.
And what time frame are we talking about?
It is an ongoing process. For example, this insights I'm talking about, we're already building some insights already in the SD-WAN perspective. So there is, you are going to see more of that. So it will be delivered. You may not explicitly be said as an AI thing. It is incorporated using AI. There is going to be insights that will be built into the SD-WAN solution. So we're going to be doing there's a lot of effort happening on the analytics and the insight standpoint on the SD-WAN side, and that a lot of that relies on AI-based technologies to support that. Sure, go ahead. Okay, I may have to I will have to get back to you on that. That specifically relates to what our edge compute can support. Specific to SD-WAN edge appliance itself, are you asking for any rugged appliances?
Yes.
They do have virtual, yeah, we do have virtual. Oh, okay, absolutely. I can help you with that. We have virtual form factor devices. We have virtual edges. Absolutely. Absolutely. No worries.
Hey, you guys used to talk a lot about the E&I functionality, and I haven't heard anything this week.
Yeah, so that relates back to, so as a solution, it is still there. E&I as a solution, which is the edge network intelligence. So we're using a lot of the intelligence and insights that we're talking about. We're just going through a kind of a rebranding exercise, and I would say looking at it from an analytics perspective and consuming it into the larger SD-WAN solution. It is still very much a product, but rather than selling it as a separate add-on, it is now going to get consolidated. You're going to see it more and more come in the analytics angle. In terms of the insights that we're talking about, a lot of this intelligence will be, dependent on that same technology. So technology-wise, it's still very much alive. Thank you.
Question about transitioning, or partially transitioning of Equinox to the GCP.
Yeah.
Performance-wise, can you comment on that? Like web security versus semantic platforms?
So semantic right now already is on GCP. Most of the SIG functionality, the semantic cloud is already on GCP. What we are doing is we are taking our SASE POPs that are currently in different environment, and we're trying to move in the GCP framework. It helps us a lot. One of the things that you saw in terms of the pop-to-pop optimization is coming from the fact that now we are on the same framework. We are able to make use of the other. So it's literally in that process. The transition is happening right now. So we can share more details. Maybe in the next insiders call, we can actually take this and then talk a little bit more on the migration and the performance. Right now, it's in that process right now. So I'm not able to give you exact numbers on what we are seeing and what is happening, but it is in that process. So we know that all our orchestrators are already there. So there is no difference between what used to be there. So from an end user standpoint, you wouldn't see any major difference on that standpoint. Right now, our gateways are going through that migration into the GCP framework, which is what will kind of address your question you're talking about, like, is it going to have a performance improvement or a penalty because it's moved into GCP framework? Yeah.
I mean, like, we're trying to understand, I think that we're going to get the licenses probably next week for the Symantec and SASE.
Sure.
And we have a time frame to transition out towards the end of September, right? So my concern a little bit in terms of like our ops or economics, the cloud security replacement is in GCP.
Yeah.
How do you guys reach that? Like, is it going to be additional latency there potentially?
So ideally, we do not expect that latency. That is the whole thing. It's more of a like-to-like replacement is what we are looking to do, and we're trying to work with that package from GCP, which would get us the same thing. So we are not expecting that. But like I said, in that process right now, we literally launched the Symantec as well on the Cloud Web Security on Symantec platform. So I can take the question back and get back to you. I can definitely get back to you on that one. Go ahead. Please go ahead.
So Ananda, SD Access, Symantec, all those things, what's leaving, what's staying?
So Ananda is the same as SD Access, by the way. Ananda Networks is a solution. That's the acquisition that we did. Excuse me. And
My question is, like, are you still planning on investing into that solution? You deviated towards Symantec now, 100%.
So no. So Symantec is mainly on the security part. We are more of security part. That's why it says Symantec is more on the SSE. But the remote access solution, which is the SD access, is very much the Ananda's networks based. Although we know Symantec also offers a remote access client, but ours is mainly because it is optimized and it uses like DMPO-like technology for remote access connectivity. That is why your SD access, which is based on the Ananda Networks acquisition, is very much the remote access solution.
The collector sites have been resolved
Sorry?
for SOTA.
Yeah?
Was there some upgrade or something with the collector sites on that?
We for the management, you mean? Yeah. No. That is already there. So now both your SD access client is under the same orchestrator. So you can create policies in the same orchestrator. It's the same single pane of glass management. Okay. So we can definitely. I'm here. If you want, I can answer more questions.